Welcome to the botany class, and today's topic is roots. The roots are hidden underground, and that is why people usually underestimate the value of the roots. And also, when when we clean our garden from the uh, undesirable plants, we cut the uh, shoot a part of the uh, undesirable plant, but its root remains in the soil, and uh, in that case, it will grow up very fast, uh, actually the next day. So if you want to get rid of any plant, you should remove it completely with its root system, and sometimes this root can be very long and can go deep to the soil. That is why most of the time it's not possible to completely remove the plant from the soil. And uh, the the root system is actually uh, can be divided to two uh, two types. The taproot system and fibrous root system. And the taproot system looks like uh, this. The uh, the main root uh, that is uh, formed from the enlarging radical with many smaller uh, lateral branches coming uh, from the main root. Lateral roots often occur initially in the uh, regular rows along the length of the main root. And this taproot system is mostly seen in uh, eudicots, and uh, a few trees like hickory retain their taproot, which become quite massive as the plants age. Uh, and most trees have taproots uh, when young and later develop large, shallow lateral roots from which other roots branch off and grow downward. The second type of root system is a uh, fibrous root system, and fibrous root system has several many roots of the same size that develop from the end of the stem from this point. Uh, So and fibrous root system uh, form in uh, in plants in which the embryonic root is short-lived. The root originates from the embryonic root and later from the stem tissue. Uh, and because the fibrous root arise from the pre-existing roots, they are called adventitious. Adventitious organs occur in unusual locations such as roots and develop on a stem or buds that develop on roots. Uh, you should send me your email so I can invite you at the beginning of the lecture so don't interrupt them during the lecture itself. So the onions, crabgrass and other monocots have fibrous root system. Uh, every type of the root system is adapted to obtain more water. So, for example, taproot system usually extend down into the soil to obtain water from the underground, whereas fibrous root system, which obtain water from the surface of the ground, are adapted to obtain rainwater from a large area as it drains into the soil. And the water that drains into the soil can be a problem too because of the erosion. And this picture was taken 2 years ago from the Vishnevsky Street that is nearby the university campus. And you can see that there is a construction here that removed some trees and there are new trees planted here, but there are no trees here. Like this entire area was originally covered with the trees, so the root system were holding the soil. However, when the authority removed the trees and that led to erosion of the soil because the roots of the trees are no more holding holding the soil like here and here there is no erosion because these trees and these trees hold the soil, but it is not the case here, and that lead to a massive erosion from the raining water and is also dangerous for the people that are running here and also for the vehicles that are running here. So but this actually was not taken into account when the authorities were making construction on this road. So there are also adaptations of the routes that are designed for the storage. So the functions of the route are very important, and the main function is to attach a plant to anchor or attach a plant securely to the soil, because the plant remain on one location throughout its life unless a person will take it with the soil and move to another place, but that usually happens very rare cases only. And usually if someone wants to get rid of the plant, just uh, cuts it away and that's it, unless it is a valuable tree. And the tree also, you cannot move it uh, when it grows large. Only young trees can be moved. And the uh, anchorage is the first function of the roots and is essential for plants to survive, because the stem should remain upright and that make able leaves to absorb light efficiently. Second function is the absorption of water and minerals such as nitrates, phosphates, and sulfates. And because these are important to make organic molecules that are transported throughout the plant in the xylem. So we will talk about xylem. We talked about xylem last lecture, so we will talk about that more uh, later, uh, next week. And the third, the roots are used for the storage, and this is a picture that shows the most common type of the roots are used for storage. And usually it's a sugar, like this uh, uh, sugar of the beets, uh, because it's an important storage of the sugar for the human, uh, because of the high content of the sugar is used to produce a, a white sugar. So uh, and these beets are very common here in Russia. Like most families plant them on the uh, uh, backyard, backyard. Uh, uh, so easy to plant and so easy uh, to store, because they can be stored for a long time during the winter, so and uh, used as a source of the sugar. Mm, sugar canes are not very popular in Russia because they don't grow very well. Uh, Carrots are another example with roots that have extensive phloem for the storage, uh, and uh, both of the root systems, taproot and fibrous roots, may be modified for storing food, and taproots include the beets, carrots, radishes, and fibrous roots include sweet potato. Uh, the taproots are usually biennials, and they store um, starch and glucose in roots to survive the winter, because the roots are underground and ground is usually not uh, frozen completely. Uh, so they can use the stored substances to reproduce during the second year of their growth. uh, and in the deserts, so in Egypt, in the deserts, plants use storage roots to adapt to store the water, because in the desert of the in Egypt, the dry season is very long, and the rain is only once or twice a year in the desert. So like in the desert, when rainy season comes, it all plants uh, grow fast, make flowers, seeds in about 2 weeks, and then when dry season, the rain season is over, everything is dies. The upper part dies, and only the root system is uh, uh, remaining. In certain species, roots are modified for functions other than storage, uh, and uh, later we will discuss that too. So root possesses a root cap, so this is a root cap, and root hairs, so these are root hairs. So this is adaptations are for the uh, living in the soil, uh, and these are only seen in roots. Shoot system don't have this hair, and this function of this hair and types of the hair are different from the hair of the shoot system, and each root uh, covered by a root cap. So this is a root cap, uh, and so root cap will this one root cap will protect the apical meristem. Uh, this is an apical meristem that is divided fast, uh, and when the root grows, it pushes its way through the soil, uh, and this cap is protecting and making friction available at the site of the growth. Uh, and also the root cap secrete the lubricating polysaccharides that reduce friction as the root passes through the soil, especially when the soil is hard. And root cap is also orienting the growth uh, direction. So if we remove the root cap, uh, the apical meristem will grow a new root cap. But uh, until the new cap is grown, the root cannot see the direction of the growth to the gravity. So this root cap also senses the gravity, it will direct root downwards. Root hairs live a short life and are formed from the epidermal cells. Uh, and each root is typically 1 centimeter, uh, and there are plenty of them. Uh, the root has increased the absorptive capacity of the root by increasing the surface area uh, that will contact with the soil, and this is important to absorb more water from the soil, especially in the deserts. So soil particles uh, are coated with a thin layer of water in which the minerals are dissolved. So each root hair establishes a contact with the soil particle, and that allows water to be absorbed, and the minerals will be absorbed too. Um, the roots don't have a buds and internodes to produce leaves, and uh, so that is why all the growth is from the apical meristem. There are two types of the different root microscopy structure, and uh, the this is a structure of the herbaceous eudicot root. So the eudicots have this kind of root. So uh, and the outer layer is epidermis. So this uh, thin layer is the epidermis. Then thick part is the cortex, and the central part is stela. So epidermis, cortex, and stela. Epidermis is common for all the root types. Uh, it protects from the damage and regulates the water flow. Uh, a cortex used for the storage of starch and other uh, substances, and the vascular tissue, that is stela, is used for conduction. So the um, the epidermis is single layer of the cells, like uh, most of the herbaceous eudicots, and it protects the tissue and covers the roots. And root hairs will grow from the epidermis because they are the modifications of the root epidermis. Uh, the epidermis uh, the waxy cuticle is not secreted to make able the water to be absorbed from the soil, and the root hairs lack the cuticle, and that is why the wax is less there. Uh, the water enters by the diffusion uh, along the cell walls, uh, and uh, the cellulose absorbs the water like a sponge. Uh, so, have you ever used a cotton to absorb the water? Like if you are in the kitchen and uh, if you spill the water on the table, what do you do? So if you never spill the water to the table in the kitchen, uh, I usually use a cotton cloth that absorbs the water very well. So the same is here. When uh, the good hair touches the water, it will absorb it because of the tension of the surface of the cellulose. So uh, the cortex of this part, the cortex of the herbaceous audicot root, is mostly composed of the parenchyma cells. Parenchyma cells uh, have large intercellular spaces. So this, like a cell, this is a cell, and this is an intercellular space. So space between the cells, and uh, usually the cortex don't have much collenchyma cells, but develop sclerenchyma cells as it ages. So these have only parenchyma, but the older one will also have sclerenchyma cells, and the primary function of the root cortex is storage. So this red is actually starch. A microscopic examination of parenchyma cells reveals numerous starch grains, and uh, starch is insoluble carbohydrate composed of the glucose unit in the most common form of the stored food in plants. And this starch provides energy for the growth for during the winter or when the uh, when the plant requires repairment after the injury. Uh, the intercellular air spaces provide a pathway for the water uptake and allow the aeration of the root. Uh, and the oxygen for respiration is also obtained from the intercellular spaces. And that is why it's important to make the soil make a holes in the soil so the roots can breathe. And the inner layer of the cortex, the endodermis, so the endodermis is a single layer of the cells that is located in the stela in the central part. So this is a cortex. So this is a cortex. This is a intercellular uh, intercellular space here, and this is endodermis cells, one layer also. Uh, and this stela consists of the pericycle cells, and the phloem. So these are phloem cells, these are xylem cells, and uh, together they form an X-like structure that is called stela. Uh, the endodermis controls the amount of water and minerals that enter the xylem in the root center. So they control the water flow. The endodermis differs from the rest of the cortex because they fit very snugly to each other, and each cell has a special band-like region called the Casparian stripe. So this is an endodermis, and this is parenchyma with the intercellular spaces here, and water can flow through these between these cells, but this is endodermis and they are very snugly fit, and this blue is a Casparian stripe. Uh, and Casparian stripes make a wall, and they contain suberin, a fatty material that is waterproof. The water and dissolved minerals that enter the root cortex from the epidermis move in solution along two pathways, the symplast and epiplast. Uh, so this is the epidermis. So this is the parenchyma, and there are two ways to move uh, through the parenchyma. The symplast is a connection between the cytoplasm of the parenchyma cells and epiplast. Epiplast is connected cell walls. So the symplast uh, uh, in the symplast the connections called the plasmodesmata. So this is plasmodesmata, and the epiplast. So the symplast is allows the water and minerals to move, and the epiplast usually for minerals. So the uh, the endodermis will control the movement of the water because it prevents the water to move freely because of the Casparian stripes. Uh, so, and to move, uh, the water should enter the cytoplasm of the endodermal cells, and it enters by osmosis. Uh, well, Inorganic minerals enter by passing through carrier proteins, uh, and th this way the endodermis controls what kind of dissolved minerals and how much of each kind move from the soil into vascular tissue of the root. So the uh, vascular tissues are known as stela. So this is a stela. So the outermost layer is a pericycle. So this is epidermis, and then the first layer after the uh, endodermis. Sorry, this is an endodermis. The next layer is pericycle, and uh, the pericycle is composed of parenchyma cells, and they remain meristematic and give rise to lateral roots. Lateral roots originate when a portion of the pericycle starts dividing, and as it grows, so this is a root, part of the root, and this is a pericycle, and then this is a lateral root that with the apical meristem here to grow and break the mother root, so to form a lateral root. The monocote roots are considerably more varied in internal structure than eudicote roots, but usually they have a same one layer epidermis, then a cortex, same like the eudicote roots, but the stela is different, so it's larger stela, and the the xylem and phloem is spread around, not in the center. So this is a stela is larger, and xylem, this is xylem, this is a phloem, and they form around rather than centered. So this is a characteristic for the monocots. Monocots also have the endodermis, that is this red one layer of the cells. Pericycle is also here, same as the eudicotes, and then this is the phloem, it's greenish, and this white are the xylem, and then in the center there is a pith. This is a parenchyma in the center that is called pith. Or because the monocots don't have true secondary growth, no vascular cambium exists in monocot roots. The despite that, some of them like palm trees, they are not actually trees, they are herbs. So palms often have thickened roots produced by a modified form of primary growth, in which parenchyma cells in the cortex divide and enlarge. So that makes the cortex expand. Uh, so in so this is actually um, the stellar composition magnified one. So there are unusual functions for the roots, and this is roots of the uh, bud trees. Bud trees are seen in tropical rainforests, and uh, they have uh, roots that support uh, trees in the wet soil. So this soil is so wet that most of the trees will not be able to grow so uh, huge, but these roots make it able to uh, to grow in a very wet soil. And these are the pneumatrophorates that produce pencil-like wooden pneumatrophates that provide oxygen for roots uh, buried in the anaerobic mud. So these pencils used to breathe, so the roots uh, can uh, can make uh, can consume oxygen in the cell breathing. And there are also the specialist roots of parasitic epiphytes, and these are the examples of these roots that are invaded a host. Uh, so this is a tree, but this green is not part of the tree. It is the parasite, like this one, that will grow into the tree. So this is the root of the parasite. And this is Mistletoe is a parasite shrub that obtains water and the source minerals from the host on which it lives. So this is a shrub. Usually shrubs grow on the soil, but this shrub prefers to grow on the tree. And what do you think? What is this? This this resembles actually the tubes of the uh, alien, space alien that will invade and eat you in your nightmare. But actually, this is onion roots. So usually onions have this type of the roots. And then also the mycorrhiza is the enhanced plant growth by providing essential minerals to the roots. So mycorrhiza is a fungi hepta between the plant cells. So this increases the absorption. So and this is a enhance between the fungi and the plant. And also here the endomycorrhiza is also fungi associations in which the fungi hip penetrate the root cells of the cortex to aid in delivering and receiving nutrients. Uh, the endomycorrhiza colonize of most vascular plant species. So this uh, fungi enhances the nitrogen uh, uh, and that makes nitrogen is required to make the proteins and nucleic acid. That is why uh, the producing the fungi will produce ammonia from the atmospheric nitrogen, and that enhances the nitrogen that is important to survive. So that is all for today, and thank you for attending lectures. Any questions? So if no questions, then see you next week. Have a good day.